Welcome back to our series on Should You Read, this episode being Beating the Street with Peter Lynch and John Rothschild. What's in the book? The chapters dedicated are The Weekend Warriors, The Magellan History, Prospecting in Bad News, It's a Wonderful Buy, Fannie Mae Diary, 25 Golden Rules, and group-specific advice which includes retail sector, MLPs, cyclicals, the energy, S&Ls, and restaurant stocks. The first thing I didn't like about Beating the Street was how much he talked about working at Magellan. There were 58 pages talking about his experience in the early, middle, and late years of his life working there. And we're here to beat the street, not join it in this book. For number 2, it's not as fun to read as Peter's other books, but granted, it's still a lot better than most finance books. There's good information, but the delivery isn't as nice as some of his other books. As far as what I liked about Beating the Street, number 1 was the specific information. I found this very refreshing from the generic stuff that you hear all the time. There's lots of interesting information on specific areas, such as restaurants, S&Ls, MLPs, and energy stocks, to name a few. The second thing that I really liked about Beating the Street was that there's lots of charts and spreadsheets to look at. Peter's other books have walls of text, often with very little spacing. And there's a little bit of that here, but not nearly as much. In other books, you could go like 10 pages where it's just huge blocks of text, but in this book, you won't get that as much. Now let's get into what, in my opinion, are the best chapters of the book. The top 3 go like this. Number 1, which is kind of unfair, it's chapters 8, 12 to 16, and 20, and these are the specific investments. They are basically the same idea, but with different topics. So, retail, S&Ls, MLPs, cyclicals, energy, and restaurants. So whichever one you're super interested in, or maybe you just want to read all of them like I did, then you can go to those specific chapters and read what he has to say about them. As far as number 2, it's chapter 21 with the 25 golden rules, and number 3 is chapter 10, My Close Shave at Supercuts. For the third best chapter, which was chapter 10, My Close Shave at Supercuts, the main idea is experiencing the places you invest in and understanding how businesses make money, and part of that is thinking about upsides and downsides to companies. For the second best chapter, which was chapter 21, the 25 golden rules, the main idea of this chapter is that it's a very short summation of the book's main points. It's satisfying and simple reading, and it gives logical advice and no complicated ideas. For the number 1 best chapter, which is a culmination of a few, it's chapters 8, 12 to 16, and 20, where it's basically the same idea just with a different topic. It's explaining specific investments. And the main idea is what makes a business in certain areas good or bad. Banks, energy, cyclicals, and so on. What are things he really likes to look for in these stocks? But the question isn't, should I read Beating the Street by Peter Lynch and John Rothschild? The question is, should you read Beating the Street? And if you're a brand new, no clue kind of investor, I would say maybe not, because it's not really written for total beginners. However, you could look up a few words here and there. It's a decently good read, whether or not you are or are not totally into finance. And it's pretty straight to the point with writing, and it's also a good read. So really, it'll depend more on your level of interest towards finance. So if you're just kind of interested, maybe not. If you're really interested, I would say you probably go for it. What if you're a somewhat new investor where you understand business language, but you don't have a lot of experience, and you've only been reading about investing, maybe you're too nervous to actually start? I would say yes. This is most likely the target audience for the book. And it's very helpful to see what he finds to be important, and can potentially have you see things in a new view. What about the people with moderate to lots of experience? The people with a year plus of learning about the market and having money actively working in the market for them? I would say possibly. The most useful part for you would be those specific chapters, so whether you want to or not will likely depend on that. About 1/3 of it will likely be totally useless with just basic knowledge that you already know, but I still found it to be a fun read regardless. So are you interested in reading Beating the Street by Peter Lynch and John Rothschild? I have a link for this book in the description down below. And did you enjoy the video? Because if so, I would like you to smash the like button and subscribe and hit the bell if you're new here. And as always, thank you so much for watching.